Welcome to GateCrashers, a podcast dedicated to kicking open the door to your next favorite thing. Our mission, our creed, and our code is this: to make all things nerdy more approachable and accessible to everyone. We want you to find a universe that you'll fall in love with. I'm Dan. I use he, him pronouns.
And I'm Jake. I also use he, him pronouns.
And today we're joined by Phillip Kennedy Johnson, the upcoming writer for Superman. How are you?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Very excited. Before this, I was like thinking up good questions for some of your other stuff, like The Last God and Kill a Man, and I was like, we had too many Superman questions, so sorry we don't get to talk about those other fantastic books.
Yeah, dude. Whatever you guys want to talk about.
All right, so we do like to open our interviews with sort of a hard-hitting question. What's your favorite sandwich?
I don't really think in terms of sandwiches. It's kind of depends on where I'm at and what the choices are. And plus I'm on this crazy diet right now, so I haven't been touching them. But if I had the choice of whatever, I guess I'd go with a Cuban. How's that sound?
A Cuban. Okay. I don't think we've had a Cuban before.
I don't think so.
It's a good sandwich. So we actually had a couple of listener questions, and two came from @NewTSage, and I did want to open up with his first question because it's great. So, Superman being about truth, justice, and the American way has been his motto or his tagline for quite some time. But what does that mean in 2021 when America isn't exactly the best place across the board?
Okay. So anytime I hear that phrase appear in a book, read it, truth, justice, and the American way in a book, I kind of see this little ripple of resentment online that follows it, and people get pissed off. And I think the American way, part of Superman's mission statement, must mean something different to me than I imagine it must mean to other people. As you guys probably know, as my readers are learning lately, I'm active duty Army and have been in for like 15 years, and I consider myself a patriot. But in that, in recent years, that word has kind of been hijacked by people with whom I've got like nothing in common. Sometimes, actual fucking Nazis to the point where if I even hear that somebody call themselves that, I secretly kind of assume the worst sometimes. And I hate that. No. When people say like on their thing is like, I'm a patriot. That is such a loaded word now. And I hate that. But I am trying to take that word back right here tonight. I'm taking that word back. And I consider myself an American patriot, and Superman's statement, truth, justice, the American way, is not a statement of nationalistic mentality at all, at least not to me. I mean, Superman's supposed to be the opposite of that, right? I mean, when I hear truth, justice, the American way, I don't hear that he's trying to spread America's influence or his way of life or our way of life, or that he's trying to represent what the American government represents at any given moment in history. It's not like his opinion changed with elections. He upholds the ideals that America was meant to be founded on, like the ideal that all men are created equal, that everyone should have the same opportunities in life, that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's not a claim that things have ever been that way here. I mean, anyone could hear what I just said and rightfully say, yeah, but that's not what we are. And I get that. I mean, I understand that we have yet to achieve those ideals in America, but the phrase to me represents a belief that it could be true someday. And Superman is trying to spread those ideals that our nation was founded on, not American influence. Superman does not look to us to show him what his ideals are. If anything, I think it should be the other way. Like real life Americans should think to that mission statement, truth, justice, and the American way, and remember that Superman believes in it and try to make it true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah,
that's how I take it, and that's what I believe. So I'm not going to shy away from that phrase. Yeah. I know there are people that hear any kind of patriotic mentality these days and automatically get their guard up. And I totally get why. I totally understand why that is.
And before we get into any more Superman, I stumbled upon the fact that you play in the Army band, right?
Yeah, the Army Field Band in Washington, D.C.
What do you play?
Trumpet.
Oh, nice. That was just more of a me question.
Yeah, I've been doing that for a long time. The whole time I've been in the Army, I got in to take that job.
Wow. Yeah, the bands are always super impressive.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we typically lead the inaugural parade, actually, every 4 years. So,
to you, what is Superman? Like, what are his fundamentals?
Superman is, to me, the living contradiction to the cliche that power corrupts. I want somebody. I recently had a conversation, actually on another podcast, in which somebody really loved seeing the Henry Cavill kind of take on Superman, where he's more conflicted, he's more complicated, he's got some darkness underneath. It's not as simple. And he liked that. He liked having Superman, like a Superman he could kind of relate to, somebody that struggles with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally do not take that approach. I don't want a Superman that I can relate to, that has the same kind of weakness that I have, same kind of issues with, anger or feeling lost or not knowing what the right thing is. I want a Superman that shows me the way, I want a Superman that shows us who we're supposed to be, that we can aspire to be. And not to say that we can't ever see them struggle and, have a hard time, but, I don't think that person was necessarily defending just the Man of Steel film necessarily. It's more of a philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
But if we did talk about the movie for a second, I would have said the Jonathan Kent thing was all wrong, where he's the one kind of trying to keep Superman hidden. Like, it's like, yeah, you can't use your powers. Don't, even if you got an opportunity to save someone, you shouldn't. That's crazy that Jonathan Kent would ever say that.
Mm-hmm.
That's because his powers come from Krypton, his Krypton parents, but who he is, what makes him special came from what he learned here among us from his Earth parents. They're the ones that taught him humility and compassion and, who he is down to his core. That's what made him special. He's not just a super powerful tyrant or even have any ego in him. He's just incredibly humble and knows hard work and knows compassion.
Yeah. And I think a lot of Superman stories kind of forget that Ma and Pa Kent are like, they are the reason the way he is. Like, he's got all these cool powers and stuff, but it was they made him who he was.
Yeah, agreed. That's who he should be. So that, to me, he's the anti cliche, the thing, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And he has practically absolute power, but he uses it with absolute humility and compassion. And that's what makes him who he is. It's important that we see his powers, but it also can't ever be the point of it. Mm-hmm. Superman book is not just a mashup where you're just beating the shit out of people. It's just not who he is. It's got to be. Yeah. It has to illustrate how incorruptible he is. That's what his powers are there for.
Yeah, and I think that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying there might have been a time once where he, the book was just about, hey, bank robbers, they got big round bags of money with dollar signs on them, pew pew pew, and then a bulletproof man shows up, kind of bonks him on the head, and walks off, and it's kind of like this power fantasy. But it's more complicated now, and that's not who Superman is now. It's so much. He's so much more than that. He's become so much more to all of us. So it really is important that his powers not be the point of the story.
Yeah, and I think with that, what are some the major building blocks of a good Superman story for you?
I'm kind of looking for that big chills moment. The one that I get in key moments of the 1978 film. Like I got from Kingdom Come, actually, when I know that's not the most aspirational story overall, but there are these moments though that definitely are. When at the end of the first issue, where, well, even before that, when you see Superman kind of hiding out and he's got the beard and the long hair and he's farming, and you realize that it's him, you're just like, oh my God, it's so awesome. But then at the end of that issue, when he flies up out of retirement and just saves the day. And then later on, when he flies in, not flying, but when he goes into the bar with all these metahumans and just straightens them out. And he just says a few words and everyone shuts up and listens. There's these chills moments that I'm trying to capture in the issues. Yeah. So I just want to see him being super powerful, but not necessarily having to use his power in this overpowering way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of shines through in your first Future State issue, where most of the issue is pretty much told through secondhand accounts of Superman rather than us getting to see it through the Man of Steel himself. Is this type of story, are we going to be seeing a lot of stories about Superman's effect on the world around him?
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, I'm not going to keep doing the secondhand thing. That was definitely the approach for the one-off. I wanted this big mystery. I want to see what happened to the world that he left behind, how it was impacted by his presence and then by his disappearance, and how this big mystery. Where is he? And how to just see how we perceive him. Get all these like Superman legends about who he is and who he was and where he could be and all that, and then see where he is and what he's really doing and how that represents so perfectly who he is. We're going to see Superman on a much larger stage, I guess, going forward. The more recent arcs, he's been out in the cosmos, of course, but he's largely been on Earth. Most of the stuff he's been dealing with have been with the Daily Planet cast and people on Earth. And where we're going next is going to be on a much larger scale. I'm trying to give the biggest, most epic version of Superman that we can and just world build my ass off. I'm trying to just trying to build out the DC universe and show Superman in a larger context.
You are very good at that. After reading The Last God, it's made me excited to hear you talk about this in interviews and stuff, because I'm excited to see the kind of global citizen Superman.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And so up until recently, he's kind of lived as three different people. He's got the Clark, Superman, and Kal-El. But that's gone away because he's revealed his identity to the world. Do you think this changes the character in a significant way?
I mean, it makes it easier to write him, honestly. Like I never needed the secret identity stuff. Like I know it's I like the fact that he was trying to, I mean, as I hope I illustrated in the Future State thing, I like that he's a writer and that he tried to save the world through his own writing, even when he's not, doing big things. Thought that was really cool. But as far as the hat and fedora stuff, or the, hat and glasses and the secret identity, I didn't personally need that part of it. And I kind of like him being out in the open in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for a guy who hangs his hat on truth, justice, the American way, that truth part, him lying to everyone all the time, kind of didn't make sense to me. Having it all out there to me makes more sense.
Wow, that idea of the truth part never really struck me until right this moment. Do you think that it feels better for him just to be who he is instead of having to hide that?
I mean, I hope so. I think so. I think it makes more sense for the character. Honestly, like getting used to the new status quo now of him being out there, and then seeing trailers and stuff for the Superman and Lois show that's coming up, and imagining he has two sons who don't know who he is. That seems crazy. That seems hard to go back to.
Yeah, I haven't seen the newest trailer, but that's a little weird.
I saw a little bit. I can't remember what happened, but I have not seen all the trailer footage that there is. But as I understand it, his sons don't know a secret identity, and that seems crazy to me that he would lie. Even just going back and reading older comics where he's lying to a young Jon, just there's like this dissonance now. I kind of don't like it. Like I like it better when everyone kind of knows who he is. Yeah. In that regard, I prefer the current standing.
So, for you, what do you think he introduces himself as? What is his name now? Do you think it's more Clark, or does he go by his true name, Kal-El?
I'd say Clark. I mean, that's how he grew up before he knew his birth name. I mean, that's what he was called by the people who raised him. That's what he goes by at work. It's not like people, ask Superman for, to email his latest draft. That's the name his wife calls him. She's not calling him Smallville. I mean, that's his name, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's Cal, or was, but when he's, in his truest thoughts, I think he calls himself Clark. And he does in the story, actually. And some stuff I have coming up, when he names himself Clark. I
like that.
And to me, it just makes sense. I mean, there was sometimes people's name change throughout, throughout their life. Like there was a time in my life where people call me a different first name than I go by now. And if somebody were, if I were to get a phone call, I would still answer to it, but it's not how I see myself anymore,
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about her a few times. And Lois Lane is pretty much Superman's equal. She doesn't have the powers, but she has everything else. How are you approaching writing her as a character?
So far, I've only written her in a few scenes. There's so much stuff happening away from Metropolis that she does not have as huge a role as she has most recently. I think she's gonna have a bigger role, honestly, in some of the backup stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not any animosity with Lois. It's just about where the story took us and where it would make sense and not make sense for her to be there. She's very much a part of the super family. There's some stuff coming up where you're going to see pretty much the whole, House of L cast, like the current day, with him and Kara and Jon and Lois is very much around and playing a very active role in stuff that's happening in the story. But right now, I'm seeing her in the context of that person that she is like just a seeker of truth all the time. Like she's just this super driven journalist who just doesn't let go of stuff, and I love that about her. And she loves the hell out of Clark, of course, but she's not like super doe-eyed and dreamy about it. Like it's just a different kind of thing. I really like the nature of their relationship and how they're not equals exactly because they're so different, but they're definitely peers. And I love how they interact. So yeah, it's like they're like one's always a step ahead of the other in different ways.
Yeah.
And it's just a really fun dynamic.
So before I kick it over to Jake, if you didn't know, we actually used to be called the Super Sons. So we're both very, very big Jon fans.
Nice.
So Clark has always done everything he can to protect those that he loves, but now his world is completely different because he has a son. Do you think that changed his world view?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Well, I mean, it's hard to say because Clark, what I should have said is, yes, it's definitely affecting my worldview.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Clark, who already has this deep existential love of all life, I think that's a concept that a lot of people have a hard time getting their head around. Like, just how do you love everything, But Jon kind of gives us a way to put our finger on it. Like, now I get it, because a lot of people can understand, the deep love that you feel for a child or a parent or a spouse or, or a loved one of some kind. Like one person you can just pour everything into. And Superman is just so about compassion, and you just boil all of that down into one person that represents his relationship with his wife. It's a pretty amazing thing. So yeah, I definitely try to communicate that in the upcoming issues. Man, I wish the March issues were already out so we could talk about that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there about Superman and Jon. I will say so those first two issues in March, Superman 29 and Action 1029, they tie together. After that, there are two different series. Superman becomes one run and Action becomes the other. Superman is very much about Superman and Jon together. And then the Action comic is more Clark centric, but you're going to see a lot of how Clark and Jon feel about each other in these books. And
you mentioned it, but you are a parent yourself. Did you find your own approach to life and storytelling change once you became a parent?
Yeah, I did. To life for sure. And in storytelling, in that a lot of my stories became about my son. I mean, it's before that, most of my stories were about America in some way, and still kind of are. But they're also very much about my son, either seen through my eyes as his parent or from his own perspective. Because I'm thinking more about legacy stuff now. I'm thinking more about the work I'm going to leave behind. And I really want my son to be able to look back on my work and read them and read the books and see himself in them, and just see how much I care for him. And so, yeah, I write him in there. Like a lot of my work is a kind of a love letter to something or someone. And a lot of it is for him.
That's beautiful. With Clark having been so close to his own parents, do you think that, I don't want to say he's missed out on a lot of his son's life because of some extra circumstances that he had no control over.
7 years in a volcano, Dan. Let's just cut to the chase.
Do you think he feels like he's failed as a parent in that way, or is he working through having missed so much time in his own son's life?
I think he definitely feels some guilt. Not that he did that, but that he, in a way, he allowed it to happen. Even if Jon wanted to go, even if Lois told him it was okay, even if everyone wanted it to happen but him, and he kind of let it happen. He would certainly feel some guilt over that, and just this huge regret and just remorse about what he's lost. I mean, you can't ever get that back. I mean, even just me as a reader, I feel it. To him as a parent, it's going to be a huge part of his life from now on. There's definitely moments where he still sees his son as the little boy that he was before he left. And honestly, it's going to be a hard thing for him to deal with. It's, I'm not going to try to dwell on it. We're not going to make Superman a mope book, but there are moments where you see it kind of shine through and remind yourself like, oh yeah, this is something he's going to have to deal with now.
So, we've touched on this quite a bit, but what is the impact that Jon has made to Clark in your opinion?
The ways I described already.
Yeah.
And now there's on top of things we've already said, there's the fact that he's potentially more powerful than Clark is. I mean, that's been addressed already somewhat, where Batman has kind of come out and said, it looks like this guy's actually going to be tougher than you. That's an interesting thing for Superman to hear. Like he's about to be a real player. I mean, Jon is already kind of the center of the universe in a way as the founder of the United Planets and having this huge role in Legion. He's a hugely important character in DC lore now, and that's never going to change. And he's just so powerful, and Superman in a way is going to be overshadowed by that. And he has to accept that his little boy is now going to be a major player in the power structure of the DC universe. So he's, his protective nature is going to be going into overdrive for sure as Jon gets more and more powerful and he gets a more and more active role in DCU.
With bringing Jon back into the present, how will you actually already answered this. Superman being the more Jon. We'll have Jon in it. But personality-wise, what do you think sets Jon and Clark apart the most? I really liked Jon's kind of playful nature when he was younger, and I love that it's still kind of there when we see him a little bit older. I've kind of not playing it up, but I'm definitely embracing it. Superman kind of has this stature. He's used to going places around the universe and being the voice of reason, and just being the cooler head in the room that helps. He's not always just knocking down, stone giants and giant robots and whatever else. Sometimes he's just kind of there there are times when he would just be have an ambassadorial role in a treaty between peoples, or just sometimes like different situations would just need an adult in the room. And Superman is the toughest dude alive. And plus everyone knows that he would lay down his life for any of them. So he just has this automatic stature in around the universe. So he kind of has this bearing that he walks with, and this kind of gentle, quiet way of talking. Jon is a little more gregarious. He's just a little more outgoing and fun and sloppy kind of, and he's just fun, he's just fun to be around. He's a fun, there's all these scenes with him doing really fun things, being in fun situations. When he was in Super Sons, he was kind of that foil for Damian. He just has such a really fun personality and outgoing, and I love writing his voice, especially when contrasted with his dad. So yeah, he has all the powers, but he's still kind of the new kid, and everything's still really fun and new to him, and he doesn't feel the weight of it really yet. It's still he also doesn't have that same relationship that his father had as a kid to his powers, because as a kid, Clark was very afraid of his powers. We sort of saw that with Jon early on in like super the action comic. I don't remember what comic.
Yeah, when he was like blowing up cats.
Yeah, that stuff. But he doesn't just have like a moral figure. He has a super powered figure who can train him and push him along through that. So he kind of doesn't have that. Well, I mean, he blew up a cat.
He did.
Yeah, that was sad. There was witnesses. Yeah, so there's that, but he gets to be more of a kid. He doesn't have to be as restrained as his father was into testing the limits.
Yeah, totally.
He go ahead.
No, I totally agree. It's a really fun dynamic between him and his dad, just because he is less restrained and is still just having fun with it. He's so he just loves to fly. And he's also, we reveal a little bit later, he's been experimenting kind of with his heat vision. He's going to have more control over certain aspects of his powers than his dad did. And it's just been really fun to explore. And it's fun for him too.
Wow. So it always feels like the Superman family isn't as connected or is seen as much as the Batman family and its adjacent characters. But with Future State, we've seen Metropolis is more a home for heroes. Are we going to explore other heroes with your run?
Most of the characters I've been writing so far are actually new characters. And some of them are heroes, others are not. But we're going to see Superman kind of join forces with some characters you might not expect. And that's going to be really fun to show. We're going to see Superman in the context of a different kind of crew than he normally runs with. And I can't wait for people to see that.
Ooh. That just piqued my interest all the way up. All right. So we've been seeing a lot more of the descendants of Superman popping up in things such as your Future State House of L and Bendis' Legion of Superheroes. Is that something you want to build more towards in the main line? Like you mentioned legacies earlier.
Yeah, the House of L book that's coming out next week. When are you running this piece actually?
It'll be probably the week after that. So you're good to talk about it.
House of L on sale now. That book, I'm so incredibly proud of that story. It's a double-sized one-shot. Scott Godlewski on art, doing the best work of his career for sure. I mean, he's just incredible on this book. And it deals with his descendants like way down the line, like 1,000 years from now, roughly. And super proud of that book, but I love the characters we created for it. And if the opportunity arises to bring some of them into the story somehow, I would love to. That opportunity's not there yet, but if it comes, I'm all over it. I had a lot of fun with those characters. Aside from them, I'm not sure. We have other descendants coming, but I don't know. Let's see where things go. I don't want to get too spoilery about what's coming, but it's a big, big story.
I am curious. How did you feel about Bendis changing Mon-El to be a Kryptonian, not the traditional Daxamite?
I was cool with it. I mean, I think he's doing really good work on Legion. I liked a lot of those changes.
Yeah. I thought that was super interesting. Like, oh, that just feels better than the Daxamite thing.
Yeah, no, that works. I think
yeah. You mentioned you're building worlds. Will we see familiar alien species or new ones?
Both. We're going to see familiar alien species, but we're going to flesh out a race that I always thought is kind of underserved that I want to see a lot more of. We're going to flesh it way, way out and make it like a legit culture that I've always wanted to do. And we're also going to actually a couple of races we're going to see a lot more of. And one of them is established, one is new. And another new race as well that's going to be hugely important in the Superman canon.
Interesting. I wanted to. What was the alien race from Invasion? The one with the teeth. Can't remember their names. Something with a D.
Dominators.
Dominators. That's it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to throw one of those in, I just like all their teeth, but that's just me.
I can look in for sure.
Teeth. Got it. Ooh, this coming from a man who told me I can't name an episode Dental Storm.
Yeah. But they're so cool. They got those like super long. They're terrifying.
Yeah, they're cool looking. They kind of look like the trench, right?
Yes.
Yeah, kind of.
Also, Jake, sorry, I'm cutting you off, but Alien. How is it going from writing the most well-known symbol of hope, who is also an alien, Superman, to writing xenomorphs?
Oh man, it's the best. I'm covering all my bases. But I don't need therapy at all. I'm getting it all out.
I don't need that.
It's been so fun. I'm a huge Alien fan from I was, whenever I was way too young to see those films. And I'm just giving it everything I have. I love writing that book, and I hope I'm on it for a long time. We're doing some crazy stuff in it.
I'm so pumped.
Thanks. We're starting from a place that's very much like the films. It's kind of grounded at first, and we're going to see what we can do with it, how far we can take it. But I want it to always feel like it belongs with the movies in a way that Dark Horse did some really awesome work. It's super creative things. It did kind of get, it took such big swings eventually that it didn't feel like the films anymore. It kind of felt like its own thing, like its own story, which is great. But I wanted something that always, I love those films so much. I really wanted to write more stories that belong on the shelf next to those.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest elements of those stories is the quiet horror, that you don't really see the xenomorph a ton in the original until later in the film. So with a comic medium, I think that's a very interesting thing that you can explore.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's yeah, you're right. It's been, I try not to spoil anything, but there's some really cool ones, and they're letting me get away with stuff. Like there's things that we're doing in the book that you cannot do in a regular superhero Marvel comic.
I'm so excited.
Language and gore, and it really does feel like just like movies.
Well, this is a good segue because Superman had the really good design in when he fought the aliens. But so, in your opinion, what's the best Superman look? Are you a Superman mullet guy?
No.
All right, this interview was good. Turn it off.
Not a mullet guy.
He had that in this aliens book.
I know.
That was what a great thing.
I really dig the Kingdom Come look, man.
That is a good one.
But honestly, like the design that Mikkel did for like this John Carter Warlord of Mars thing that we did for Future State, I think it just is insanely cool. And God, I'm constantly having to kind of edit myself so I don't give any spoilers out. But I like it, and I do not promise that we're done with it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, amazing.
The Superman Kingdom Come look is so. I love the black logo. I'm literally wearing a black, the black and gray Superman logo as my headband right now. But the Kingdom Come look, when they brought it back for the Crisis on Infinite Earth CW thing, Brandon Routh's explanation of why he wears that was so good. Have you seen it?
I haven't. What does he say?
He talks about how it's for everyone that he's lost, and it's what keeps him moving forward. Something along those lines. I'll see if I can find you a clip, but it's Brandon Routh plays a really, really good Superman, and he gets to play the Kingdom Come Superman. So it's he really. I dug him
in the movie too. I mean, the movie has problems, but I thought he himself did a great job.
Yeah, and I'm glad he got that second chance because he knocks it off the planet.
Awesome, cool. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I'll have to look for that then. Yeah, I like that look a lot.
I
love that symbol.
Yeah, it's just iconic. That book is one of the first things I bought with my own money. I bought the big hardcover with the slip cover and everything. Yeah. I was in the 5th grade.
Nice.
You could crack a peanut with that thing. It's so heavy.
Yeah, it's a sweet book.
Yeah,
crack a peanut with that book.
I don't know.
You could have gone with a crab. It's fine.
I mean, I do live on the Chesapeake Bay. I could crack a crab with it.
Yeah, out in the backyard chasing them.
Yeah. So, all right. Now for my hard-hitting journalism question: if you had to make a Rube Goldberg machine, what would its purpose be?
It's funny you asked that because my writing method, with all the backstory and world building, it feels very much like a Rube Goldberg device sometimes. It's because it's supposed to be this big, drawn out, ridiculously complicated thing that just does some simple little task, right?
Yeah.
So I just wrote a script in which there is an alien language spoken, 4 or 5 lines of it. And I couldn't just write gibberish. I had to make an actual language that works. So instead, I worked out a whole like system of language from like on this planet that we just made it up, and different rules that would make it sound distinct and not bullshitty. Mm-hmm. And I came up with a glossary of about 100 words so that I could, make it look really legit, and like it could be translated if you wanted to and all that. So it's in there.
Are we going to get that as back matter at any point?
I mean, probably, I don't know. I guess we could. Oh, I mean,
listen, that's awesome.
If that's something people are interested in, sure. I mean, I've got it.
I think your the back matter for The Last God is like some of the coolest stuff for me, just because I love seeing that world building. And normally we do end with that question, but I have to ask you, because you're building these huge, extensive worlds. How do you keep yourself organized? Do you do it in docs? Are you writing it in notebooks? Like, how do you do it?
It's all, well, most of it depends on what I'm writing, but a lot of it is in just Word docs and folders, and those folders have folders in them, and some of those have folders in them. Yeah. And a lot of that gets duplicated on an external hard drive in case of disaster.
Interesting.
And depending on what it is, like if I'm right, okay, so in Last God, I also wrote I composed music for that series. But I also wanted to make a system, like it felt fake to write stuff out in traditional Western notation with like treble clefs and bass clefs and everything. So,
oh man!
So I wrote a new, like an additional system of musical notation that they use in world. So when I print the music, I make this whole other system of notation that you can read as they would read it, and then a second system of music that's written in something more similar to ours, so that musicians can actually read it and sing it if they wanted to. So for that stuff, I would do it by hand because it's not practical to do it on a computer. But so I do have some paper things lying around here, but most of it is on computers and hard drives.
So I've been thinking about covering Last God, but I want to hold off till this summer because I was told by our sound editor that I can't do any more musical numbers for quite some time because I put him through a whole musical. Okay. Those things we're going to record because the fact that you put so much work into all that is so cool that we could do it. So
thank you. I mean, some of it's been recorded already. If you want to check it out, it's on YouTube and such.
Yeah. Did you write the D&D kind of manual stuff for it too?
Yeah, a lot of it. I didn't write the mechanics of the gameplay as far as the the stats and all that. We brought in a guy. We brought in Dan Teffler to, am I saying that name right? Shit. He's a prominent D&D guy. Dan, I want to say Teffler. Mm-hmm. Anyway, him and my editor, actually, Amadeo Torturo, was a huge gamer. And so the two of them did the D&D mechanics, the 5th edition stuff themselves. But as far as the backstories of the creatures and the places on the map and the items and all the running text and all that, I wrote all that. The creation myths, that's all me.
I'm in awe constantly. Do you have any other projects coming up that you want people to pick up?
Let's see. So Last God 12, which is the end of the series, is already on shelves. Kill a Man, a recent graphic novel that I co-wrote with Steve Orlando, illustrated by Alec Morgan. That's from Aftershock Comics. That's on shelves too. Let's see. Trade paperback to Marvel Zombies Resurrection just came out. And that's we're very proud of that book for sure. And actually, that has a lot of alien overtones in it too. I really like how that book came out. That was before I got that gig. Gosh, what else is coming out? Infinite Frontier, an anthology, is coming out pretty soon.
Oh yeah.
And I'm very, very proud of our future state stuff. The Superman future state things has turned out so beautifully. The artists all just did the best work of their careers. I could not be happier with any of that stuff.
I'm super excited about House of L.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. I'm so proud of it. There's as far as the world building stuff too, while we're talking about me going to ridiculous lengths, there's actually iambic pentameter all the way through that book.
Who are you?
Oh
my God.
Why?
That's so good.
Because I wanted, you asked why. The reason is because I wanted it to feel like King Arthur. I wanted it to feel like an Arthurian legend, something that I wanted it to feel like the end, like the fall of an ancient house, we're seeing like this battle, like the Battle of Camlan at the end of Camelot. That's what I wanted this book to feel like. And so I wrote these kind of Shakespearean little, heroic couplet bits to make it feel old and timeless,
I'm sorry, Jake, but like right after this interview, I'm going to go pop that up on my CBR review deck because I get to read that early.
You bastard.
You can.
You've already got it.
So CBR gets review copies. So we get things a week ahead so we can write about them from the wonderful people at DC Comics. If you're listening, you can give them to GateCrashers too. It's fine.
Yes, you got to check. Yeah, man. Let me know your thoughts online.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear.
But before we give my whole speech, Kill a Man was maybe one of my favorite books of last year, and
thank you so much.
It's the reason I read it as soon as Steve sent it to me, and the next morning I went to the gym and I was like, I really want to talk to Phillip K. Johnson. I'm going to reach out to him. So I get done with my workout, I get into my car, and I'm, like when you work out, you're pumped and you're like, I can do anything. So I shot you the message. You were super cool about it. And then 3 hours later, I'm like scrolling through my phone on my lunch, and it was like, oh, hey, the new Superman writer's out. And I was like, oh, well.
Yeah.
It's also important to say that when you were at Third Eye Comics for the signing for that Valentine's anthology, I forgot to get your contact information, and Dan yelled at me.
Oh, in your face.
Yeah. Got him. Well, all worked out. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
You can find us at GateCrashers.fan, on Twitter at GateCrashersPod, and on Instagram at GateCrashersPod. We'll see you next week.
Thanks so much, guys.
The GateCrashers.